Welcome to Trainer Talk.
It's DK.
Matt, guys.
Guys, you know we're here every single Tuesday to break down some of your most pressing questions. Matt, we have 14 different questions.
This is a hell of a list.
I don't think we're going to get them all in one episode, so I'm probably going to break these up into like 3 episodes, all right? So listen, I don't want to change clothes either. So can we just sit here and bang all of these out in one session, and then we'll break it up into 3, and then we'll get it out on
We can
the
do
internet,
that. I'm not going to lie. I put this on, like we're doing this after the live workout, and I'm sweating underneath, but anything for you guys.
That's right. We're excited to be here. I also wanted to talk about a nice little tool that I have. And so if you are an internet person or you're into technology, you will know that there's this brand new artificial intelligence, AI, product by a company that Elon Musk used to own called OpenAI. And it's like the leading cutting edge of not only those AI pictures that you see on the internet, but now they just came out with their language model version of it. It's called Chat GPT. It's the most incredible technology that I've ever seen in my life.
This is new to me too.
They're calling it the Google killer.
Yeah.
Now, everything has a buzzword, but what and you can actually go play with this, and I want you to. And I've been playing with it in the context of all the questions that we get asked, and I've been saying, all right, well, Matt and I will try to answer these to the best of our ability, then we'll fact check ourselves with Chat GPT. So what it is basically like a search engine, and it aggregates the entire internet all within seconds using quantum computing to then spit out the answer from an objective, non-opinionated, non-personal, non-biased, non-political, fact-based perspective. Now, it's getting better, and this is their beta model. So I have typed in some questions where it gave me the wrong answers twice. I said, who are the most famous people from Davidson College, which Davidson College is right near us here at HQ, and they included Peyton Manning in there, which I'm pretty sure he didn't go to.
He went to Tennessee.
He went to Tennessee. He's pretty sure he didn't go to Davidson College. And then the other thing is I was trying to check its political bias, and so I typed in like a politically driven question, and it gave me an answer that was one-sided and it was biased. And they actually call it out on here, and they say, hey, this is the beta model. It will have some error. You know, it's not completely 100% accurate yet, but the idea is that with your feedback as a people, as a body of people, we keep using this thing, it's going to get better and better and better. And so instead of displaying like 30,000 pages for Google and having you crawl through all of them like individually to get your answer, boom, it's a real-time answer right here, right now. And I saw some early like political people, like I don't know if you guys follow Ben Shapiro or like any of the like, you know, there's conservative and Republican and there's like liberal news outlets. And they're both, and the only reason I was interested in it is because I knew they would know about this. And I found videos where both sides were talking about it, and they were talking about like the early stages of it, and there was like political bias in it. So just be careful there. But it seems that Chat GPT, OpenAI wants to make this a tool that is completely unbiased and completely objective. And so we got a bunch of questions today, and I typed a lot of the questions into Chat GPT, and I'll read you the answers just so you can see the difference between like what the objective technology tells us the answer is versus what Matt's and our practical answer is. And so with that being said, Matt, we're going to jump into it right away today.
Let's do it.
And you know Jennifer Prodis.
I do.
She's
Lake Norman member.
Yep, we're at the studio here in Huntersville, North Carolina right now, and she was a member downstairs. And I remember signing her original commitment with the brand. Jen, we're glad you're still here. And Matt, she asked, Matt has been talking about creatine on IG, and her question is that for post-workout? So I'm going to let Matt take this one because Matt is an expert on this. We are considering right now an extension of Burn Nutrition in this realm, and so we want Matt to be able to have the floor here because there are some myths and some bias, and I'm not going to tell him what Chat GPT says first. I'm going to let him give the answer, all right, and then I'm going to go ahead and read what this new technology has for us to offer.
So not only has Jen asked this question, but I pretty much have gotten the same question in my own Instagram message about creatine, and that means I'm somewhat of an influencer. Small, not as big as Devan yet, but I'm trying. Is it post-workout? The key thing is it doesn't depend when you take it, pre-workout, post-workout, as long as you take it daily. So overall, what is creatine? Creatine it naturally occurs in your body. So your body produces like 1 to 3 grams per day naturally. You can also get it through food. So red meat has a lot of creatine in it, and fish has a lot of creatine in it. And they found, like, why don't we make this a supplement? It's naturally occurring like caffeine. Why don't we make this into a powder? And they did, like, in the early 90s. And the backstory is, I forget which Olympian was in, like, the 92 games, but this person started taking creatine before the Olympics in training, and this person won a gold medal, and they got interviewed afterwards, like, how was your training? What did you do? What did you take? And this person says, I'm taking creatine monohydrate. And then people's eyeballs, like,
Oh, I didn't know that.
blew up. Like, oh my God.
Was that the 92 Olympics? That was in Atlanta, right?
Atlanta, I think. And people are like, oh my God, it enhances your performance this much for you to win an Olympic gold medal. So that day, in the last, last 30 years, this is the most researched, studied supplement on planet Earth. So there has been, I think, over 1,300 peer-reviewed studies about creatine, and they've all came back with the same results. So if you take subjects that take creatine and they took subjects that just took a placebo effect, and they measured the total volume a person produced in a workout over I forget the time period, but so volume is the amount of reps you do, the amount of weight you do, the amount of sets you do. Every single time in every single study, the people that took creatine monohydrate daily versus the placebo effect where they didn't take it, they produce more volume. So not only does it allow you to perform more work in the gym, to get that extra rep, to lift that extra weight, but also to recover between your workouts, okay? So when you take creatine, right, it's in a powdered form. I put something on my Instagram today, is I put it in my chocolate milk, and it makes the chocolate milk a little bit more creamier after my workout. What that allows you to do when you take it, it stores in the muscle, okay? So in your muscle, you have something called ATP, right? And that's what your body uses to as energy when you lift weights, right? But if you have creatine in there also, when the ATP gets used and there's not any more of that left, creatine is that backup to let you push past that fatigue, to let you do that extra 1, 2, 3 reps. And you do that over time, you're going to get to results a lot faster, okay? So how much do you take? 5 grams per day, all right? There's also this thing called the loading phase, and this is where some of this myth about water retention comes in for women. It's like, oh my God, it's going to make me gain weight. Only if you do the loading phase. So the loading phase is...
Only if you do or only if you don't?
Only if you do. So in the first 7 days, people are like, all right, I'm going to take a double, I'm going to take 10 grams per day or 15 grams per day. That's where the water comes from, right? So if you take more than the 5 grams per day in the loading phase, in those first 7 days, water will get pulled in the muscle, right? But as you get off the loading phase, post 7 days, when you go only to the baseline of 5 grams, that subsides.
So you want to go 15 grams for your first 7 days, and then...
So like between 10 and 20, if you want to do the loading phase. I wouldn't advise that. For one...
Who should do the loading phase?
Like high-performance athletes, like Olympians and
bodybuilders
and not the average person.
Would you, as a burn trainer, would you consider that? Could you consider burn trainers that aren't on it? Would you consider us at the level of athletic ability that would consider the loading phase?
You could do the loading phase. The only side effect they've shown is sometimes there's GI upset if you take
too much
in the loading phase.
So basically, generally speaking, unless you're like a high-performance athlete and you're doing it for a living against other people for money or a prize, then just go ahead.
If you do 5 grams per day, there's no water retention from 5 grams per day.
So why do they say that it's bad for women? Because when you think about the general perspective around women, especially from my experience, any time that I've talked to a woman about creatine, they almost always, I can't say infinitely always, but definitely always, but most times they have a negative connotation with it, and I know that you're trying hard to break that. I know for a fact that it's a non-gender specific supplement. So what do you say?
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the live girls, Erin Parks, actually came into the live studio like 3 weeks ago, and she asked this question thinking that I was going to come with an answer of like, oh my God, creatine is bad, women shouldn't be taking it. So her sister-in-law went to a burn in Pennsylvania, and I think Chuck at Bluebell was like telling her sister-in-law, like, hey, if you want your performance to get better, you should take creatine. So her sister-in-law texted Erin and was like, oh my God, Chuck told me to take creatine, and she asked me thinking that I would say, oh yeah, stay away from it, it's bad. Oh, it's a steroid, blah, 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 blah. It's not a steroid. I think that connotation probably comes from just the body.
Bro, it comes from Mark McGwire. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Like Mark McGwire was the home run king, and people said, "How did you get so big?" And he always said creatine, but really,
it was steroids.
It was steroids, and he was pumping himself full of steroids, and he blew up 40 pounds.
Yep.
But he would always say creatine, and so people always had like steroids and creatine together with Mark McGwire, and like that is not the case. No. Like that was just a cover up, you know,
for what he was really taking.
Yeah, and it got into like the lexicon, and it got into people's heads, and nowadays people like don't even know it, but like that's the reason that it, you know, the Olympian in '92 introduced it to the world, and the Mark McGwire used it as an excuse, you know, to cover the steroids. You know, whether it's pretty obvious that helped him hit 72 home runs or 70 home runs or however many he hit, 69, 70.
And look, in the two best supplements you guys can take for your performance is naturally occurring substances. So caffeine is one, and caffeine is an amazing substance you can take to enhance your performance, your focus.
Which is in Ignite, by the way, everybody. So that's like the main ingredient in Ignite.
Yep, and it's creatine, right?
Yeah.
So those two things.
Which we do not have yet.
Not yet.
And we need to get it. I feel like you're convincing me as we speak that this is the next extension of the fitness-specific nutrition line.
And you might want to ask, is there a difference between the creatine and what I would advise? The best bang for your buck is creatine monohydrate. You get all the benefits.
Monohydrate means isolated, right?
Yep.
Means mono means one.
Yep. And it's the cheapest too, and it's the most studied. So there's a million studies you guys can look up, but I really advise you, Jen, to take it. Whenever you want. You can take it when you wake up, you can take it at night, you can take it in your post-workout. It doesn't matter as long as you take it daily. And take it on days you don't work out too. You can't do it on one day you work out. If you take an off day and not take it, just take it every day so your body gets used to that uptake of 5 grams per day. And judge your performance in the gym. My wife, Monica, started taking it probably 4 or 5 months ago because I gave her all these studies. She did her research and was like, yeah, I mean, like, women should take it. Every human being should take this, not only for the performance in the gym. There's studies on cognitive improvement and bone density improvement from creatine. So, and Monica, her performance in the gym has ramped up the last 4 months, and she hasn't gained weight. She's lost body fat and gained muscle, and that's what we all want to do is be more lean.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to Chat GPT, and I'm going to ask them the same exact question. We're going to see.
Real-time fact checkers.
Okay, we're going to see what pops out of this, all right? And as I mentioned, this is still a beta, so this is not the end-all, be-all, but about 99.9% of the questions that I've asked it have given me a good answer. So I typed in myths about creatine for women, right? So I gave it a pointed question. All right, here it goes. Creatine is a popular supplement that is often used by athletes and bodybuilders to improve performance and increase muscle mass. However, there is a common myth that creatine is not safe for women to use, or that it is less effective for women than it is for men. This is not true. Creatine is safe for women to use, and it can be equally effective for women as it is for men. In fact, research has shown that creatine can be beneficial for women in several ways, including improving muscle strength, enhancing exercise performance, and reducing fatigue. So, if you are a woman and you are considering using creatine, you can feel confident that it is safe and can be effective for you. Good job, Matt.
Yes.
There you go. Smart as the technology. We'll call you AI Matt. Okay.
Here we go.
Chat Matt Morris. Okay, here we go. Okay, now we got to go to number 2, Matt.
Okay.
Number 2 today is, what is progressive overload and why do we need to do it? All right, so Matt, I'll let you hit this one. Progressive overload is a simple principle for us that we know pretty well, and it's a very basic principle. And just like, I don't know if you have ever seen legal jargon or financial jargon, but fitness jargon's pretty much the same. There's a bunch of fancy terms that really all means like simple things, and so that's what this is for, to help break down like progressive overload and like what does that really mean? And essentially, I'll let you elaborate, it just means to introduce more weight to the body over time so that the body can adapt and grow.
Yeah, Devan said it. It's a strength principle that we use at Burn Boot Camp. Every strength concept out there uses it, I hope, if they want to get their members results. But it's really increasing the stimulus. Weight is a stimulus to improve your strength over time. There is a common misconception that weight is the only factor of progressive overload, but that's not the only factor. Fixing your form could be a progressive overload. Again, and remember, this is to make something more challenging. So weight's obviously the most common one for progressive overload. The amount of sets you do is progressive overload. So if Devan's doing bench press, actually he sent me a message the other day about he's doing like hundreds on chest press. But he did 4 sets. And if you compare that to last week where he only did 3 sets of 100 pounds, that extra set is progressive overload, even though he used the same weight. Okay, so it's form, it's weight, it's reps, it's the number of sets you do. It's also the recovery time sometimes between sets. So sometimes maybe between sets it might be 60 seconds. But if you cut that in half, right, to 30 seconds, and you use the same weight and produce the same amount of work, that's also progressive overload because you took the recovery time and shortened it.
That's a great point.
So don't just look at it as weight. Yes, weight over time will get you the most results, but you can also change up the stimulus and progressive overload to get you more results.
That's a perfect explanation. I have nothing to add to that. So let's go to Chat GPT and see what it says about progressive overload. Hold on. What is progressive overload? Okay. Progressive overload is a principle, we both use that word, in strength training that involves gradually increasing the demands placed on the body during exercise. This can be done by increasing weight lifted, number of repetitions performed, the length of the workout, or the amount of rest taken between sets.
I did not read this
yes,
before.
Yes, he did not. I
did
promise.
not.
I promise. The idea, well, this is a Google aggregator, basically, right? So all the stuff that we've read over the last 10 years, you know, as long as
learn somewhere.
Yeah, and it tries to objectify it, so it's true. So this is like disregarding all empirically and obviously negative, or not even negative. That's a bad thing. Incorrect or false journals or blogs or whatever. So the idea behind progressive overload is that by gradually increasing the challenge of the exercise, the body will adapt and become stronger over time. This can help to improve athletic performance, build muscle, and prevent plateaus in training. I don't like plateaus. That's a bad word, Chat GPT. I'm going to submit that feedback. I know we can talk about that, but to finish the paragraph here, to use the principle of progressive overload effectively, it is important to take small, incremental increases in the demand of the workout rather than trying to make large jumps all at once. That's a good point. This can help avoid injury and assure that the body is able to adapt to the increased demands in a safe and effective manner. What we call that is form failure, right? So when Matt says your form can be progressive overload, what he is saying and how would we teach our trainers is form failure. So you're using the same weight, but you're correcting the form so that when you're not rocking forward on your toes into a squat, but you're sitting back on your heels and keeping your chest up and stacking that weight appropriately. Okay, you're gonna use different muscles to lift that weight, right? And so like lifting with the right muscles in the right form, it's a form over everything, right? So then we have to make sure that before we move on to like what most people think progressive overload is just if somebody can bend their knees and their hips and drop down with weight, then give them more. No, it's form first, make them fail out in the form failure, and then you layer on what most people think progressive overload is, which is loading weights. Great. Number 3. Okay, number 3 is from Stephanie Belair. She asks, with my fitness tracker, it's also tracking my recovery, and how important is that really?
So
she's probably using Whoop.
I was just going to say, she probably has a Whoop.
Or Oura Ring. Those are also tracking recovery now. Mm-hmm.
So I used to wear Whoop, but it died, and I just was lazy to charge it.
Me too. That was like the fundamental problem I had was that it was like I have 13 other things to charge at night, and that thing just didn't have an outlet.
Agreed.
Like it didn't have an outlet that was near me.
And my battery broke, and I was like, I'm not going to send my Whoop in to get a new battery. I'll just whatever. So.
I like what it does.
I love what it does
because I love super high maintenance.
Because I love the recovery thing, and I think we're starting to, as a workout culture, realize like recovery is like the most important thing for you to perform in the gym. Look, a lot of people think when they lift weights, when they work out, they're getting stronger in the moment. No, like when you lift weights, your body is actually breaking down and getting weaker. You are only going to get stronger in the amount of recovery you're getting. So my general rule for my recovery is at least 8 hours. I'm going to preface this, I don't have any kids. I understand that, but I'm going to take advantage of that now. with my recovery. So it's at least 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. I'm not going to lie about this either. It's December right now in North Carolina. It's cold, but my air conditioning is on at night. Why? Because your core temperature has to lower for you to actually fall asleep. You have to have that in a cold environment. I try not to have my phone by me in like the last 30 minutes before I go to bed, because that blue light's going to come in and it's going to keep you awake. I also look upon how much water I drink towards the end of the night, because the more water you drink, you're going to have to wake up, you're going to have to pee, you're going to have to come back. It's going to take you time to fall back asleep. So those are some recovery tips. If you are using a Whoop, obviously you want to be in the green. That's the best zone to be in. Are you going to be able to optimal recovery every time? No. If your tracker is telling you that you're in the red, right, or close to the red, that might be a good reference point to take the next day off and like just recover, right? Get some good food in. Maybe your active recovery is just walking, but the more days you do in the red and you don't properly recover, I guarantee those workouts aren't very effective. Yeah, you might be just in there doing the motions, but you're really just wasting your workout because you're not making any improvements on either the weight you're using or pushing your conditioning capacity. So recovery days are the most important for you to make gains in your muscle and in your conditioning.
And as somebody that does have kids and empathizes with those who have kids that wake up early and have, basketball that goes late, and you are able to, get your 6 hours in, right? That's basically what I do. And so is 8 optimal? I think it depends. Like optimal depends on your individual needs and how hard you work and your recovery and like your natural genetics and all that. So everybody needs their own sleep. I don't care what yours is. I just care about what you're doing when you're awake. I don't care what your sleep patterns are. I just want them to be what you need to recover fully and be able to perform at the highest level from your perspective in the next day. And Whoop helps you do that, right? Because it will, like if you don't sleep well, you overwork and you undereat or you drink too much, then your recovery score is going to be low. And that's just evidence for you that, hey, something is wrong, right? And it's either one of those three things. So for me, given that like 8 hours of sleep a lot of times is out of the cards for me, I like 6 anyway, or at least I've convinced myself that I like 6 because that's all I have.
That's a good call out.
Yeah, at least I've convinced myself that that's what I can function on. And maybe I am more optimal at 8. I've not done that study. Maybe something to do. But here's what I do know is tomorrow I'm getting 6 hours and I'm getting up at my 6 hour mark and I'm getting up and I'm going. So I care about more right now, today, what you're doing while you're awake. And to me, under eating is the biggest problem. And it's not the biggest problem all the time. It's the biggest problem when we go out socially, when we go drink, when we go eat some dinner, because what happens naturally is, we think that we had consumed all of these calories that, we should counteract that with like not getting, the food in that we eat every single day in order to recover our body. So for me, if I'm going to socialize, I have a lot of dinners. I mean, like more so now than ever, 3 times a week, any given week, probably more, there's an opportunity for me to go out in the evenings and hang out with our people, wine and dine, if you will. And I have to refrain from alcohol in a lot of those situations, which is very difficult. But even when I do consume, I don't change my diet, like my core diet, right? So if I'm eating 8 ounces of grass-fed beef or 8 ounces of elk 3 times a day or 8 ounces of chicken, it's usually one of those 3 things 3 times a day, and I'll have 5 to 7 eggs in a day, and I'll have 2 protein shakes usually. So those, in like each one of those servings of protein are going to be coupled with white rice. And that's what I do. So if I go out on top of that, it will just be on top of that. I'm okay with having the caloric surplus. But if I don't, and I deprive my body of the core nutrients, I'd rather have too much than too little, right? And then be able to, make up for some of that maybe potential body fat surplus with a hard workout or maybe with a day of intermittent fasting or something like that. So there's ways around it. There's ways around socializing and gaining body fat and sacrificing the nutrition that you need in your recovery when you do it intelligently. And you can have a win-win-win-win, and you don't need to necessarily have a win-lose circumstance with anything in your life. And this takes time. It takes time. And I used to be the person, hands down, that would be like, oh, it's Saturday night. We got to go out to a team dinner. I know there's going to be like hors d'oeuvres passed around and drinks flowing and big meals. I'm just not going to eat until then, right? That's not a good habit to get into. So keep your core nutrition fundamentally the same. And I personally, I'm not suggesting what you could do, but I personally use the tool of intermittent fasting in order to go the next day. If I do eat too much in that day, top to bottom, I can go the next day. I can have a 12-hour window. And I know that's an intentional thing that I've anticipated, right, that I'm going to do the next day because I'm a couple days ahead and I'm never just reacting to the days when I get up. Everything
comes at a cost, right? So I'm glad Devan brought up the A word, alcohol. That is gonna, that one thing, if you're in that mode of like getting home from work and having 1 to 2 glasses of wine every night, that is gonna affect your sleep.
Yeah.
There are so many studies.
And your metabolism and your ability to even process protein.
The #1 leading sleep expert out there, I believe his name is Matt Walker. He has some amazing podcasts that talks about just 1 to 2 glasses of alcohol a night, how it affects your sleep, and how you can't really get to REM as quickly as you can if you didn't drink alcohol. So if you're in that situation now, test it next week, right? The next week, I'm not going to come home. I'm going to use this whole week of not drinking alcohol, even if it's 1 glass, and see how better your sleep gets, and then see how better you feel throughout the day when you wake up. So again, alcohol, there's a cost for that when you drink that. I'm not going to say, oh, I never drink alcohol. I drink alcohol. Me and Devan, when we drink alcohol, we probably drink maybe a little too much sometimes, but that is maybe a one-off thing, right? Because I know I got to wake up Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning and perform, and I can't do that if I drink alcohol throughout the week. So.
Okay. I'm going to fact check you one more time on Chat GPT, okay? You said something that I wanted to know. I never heard it before. It said, and you're not wrong, I just want to clarify, okay? Do you have to, this is the question I asked, do you have to cool your body temperature, your core body temperature, in order to fall asleep, okay? It says, it is a common belief that cooling your core body temperature can help you fall asleep. While there is some evidence to support this idea, the relationship between body temperature and sleep is complex and not fully understood. It is true that the body's core temperature naturally decreases during sleep, and this may help to promote sleepiness and relaxation. However, it is not necessary to cool your core body temperature in order to fall asleep. In fact, trying to do so can actually be counterproductive, as it can cause your body temperature to respond if you go too low by warming itself up, which can make it harder to fall asleep. The best way to promote healthy sleep is to create a comfortable, relaxing environment, avoid caffeine and other stimulants before bedtime, and establish a regular sleep schedule. This can help support your body's natural sleep and wake cycle to promote healthy and restful sleep.
I love that last part of the sleep schedule.
Yes.
If you keep your sleep schedule the same, even on the weekends, your sleep will be better.
Yeah.
So if you wake up at 6 a.m. during the week, try to wake up at 6 a.m. on the weekends, that for your sleep schedule, because Monday morning is going to come and you might be tired if you slept until 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, compared to keeping the same sleep schedule Monday through Sunday.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love this little tool. This is great. It's like an assistant podcaster. It really is, because it's not going to like create anything from scratch. But if you ask it a question, it's like
out facts.
Yeah, because we want to bring you guys like the facts and the real stuff.
Great.
So,
and these questions are great, by the way.
They are very good questions. Comment with any questions that you guys have below. Yeah. We still got a bunch more to go through here. Okay, let's go to the last question here, and is what is bulking, and what does it really do for you? Okay, so I'll attack it at first, and then Matt, you can elaborate. So bulking is synonymous, is the opposite of cutting. And bulking and cutting have been placed into these cycles by mostly the bodybuilding industry as it became popular, in the mid 1900s. Okay, so bulking and cutting, and the idea of bulking is that you have a surplus of calories and you train at a either hypertrophy or more. Like you're either hypertrophy, right, where you're trying to gain athletic performance and muscle stimulus, or you're at maybe a maximum, maximum power where you're lifting like a power lifter, or you're like a sprinter where you're just power. Okay, so bulking is was invented to have a surplus of calories, which comes with a surplus of body fat, which comes with the maximized amount of nutrients that your body can intake in order to grow muscle tissue. That's the key, muscle tissue at the quickest rate possible without sacrificing every other goal, right? So you're not going to stay lean when you bulk, okay? Now cutting is the exact opposite, right? And you're going to basically manipulate your carbohydrates down. You're going to manipulate your caloric intake down to a deficit. Usually a safe one is about 500 calories per week for a long period of time, and then you're going to be in a deficit. And the reason why you do bulk and a cut is because you want to maximize how big your muscles can grow in the bulking phase, and then how lean your body fat can get in the cutting phase. Now, the last thing, and I'll say before I kick it to Matt, just to give you this framework, is that this is greatly enhanced, like 100 times enhanced, with unnatural substances like steroids. Yeah. And when you look at people that look like they're on steroids, they are on steroids for the most part, right? So like the bodybuilding industry, I did a couple shows. Everyone there is on steroids. Everyone in the NPC is on steroids. Like, show me one person that's not, and I'll show you someone that's not on stage anymore. Because these people that are bulking and cutting with steroids are bulking on the extreme end, where they're getting 40 pounds of muscle in 6 months, and then cutting 15% body fat in the next 6 weeks, yep. Right? And you need drugs, illegal drugs, to be able to do that at that level. So don't get confused by bulking and cutting. Personally, I don't bulk or cut. I just stay I'm in a maintenance mode where I'll gradually gain muscle with progressive overload, good nutrition, and good recovery over time. It might take longer with the absence of steroids, with the absence of, going to 30% body fat and, trying to deadlift 500 pounds times 5 sets every other day. That's just not a life that I want to live, and it's not a goal that I want to have. I want to be lean, athletic, be mobile, be able to move, run, jump, cut, and lift at the same time. So like the true definition of an athlete. So I'm in a constant maintenance mode for my body fat, and then when I want to cut, I'll lighten up my caloric intake a little bit. I'll lighten up my carbohydrates, mostly eliminating sugars and mostly eliminating alcohol. In 3 weeks to 6 weeks, yeah, will allow me to cut. So it says, the question is, what does it really do for you? And what it really does for you is gives you a focus. It gives you a certain goal, a certain outcome, a certain focus, and you can go after just one side of the spectrum, as hardcore as you want on the spectrum, right? You can go full bulk or full cut, yeah. And I'm just kind of right in the middle. Yeah. So what do you think, Matt?
I'm just going to come at the angle of it's a tool, right? So Devan talked about bulking and cutting, and I'm going to tie this to performance in the gym. So when you bulk, you're naturally going to eat more calories, right? And those calories are energy. You get your muscles and your body you can use in the gym. So if you're bulking, and usually you consume more carbohydrates when you bulk to get more water in the muscle and use those carbohydrates in the gym, you will be able to perform better, right? You'll be able to lift a little bit more weight compared to somebody that is in a deficit with calories. So what can it do for me? If you're in that maintenance phase that Devan is, and you really I do want to put on 5 to 10 really true pounds of muscle, you're going to have to eat more, right? And that might come with a little bit more body fat, and I know that sometimes it's a mind, right, to think of your mind okay, if I really want to gain muscle, I'm going to have to carry a little bit more body fat, but that's going to come with better gym performance of lifting more weight, maybe doing more sets, more volume in general, but you don't have to bulk all the time. If you gain that muscle, right, you can gradually move to that cutting phase where you take those carbohydrates out that you bulked with, and what stays, hopefully, the muscle, and what goes is the body fat that you gain. So it's a tool, all right? So again, if you want to lift more weight, you're going to have to eat more, right? Those things go together. I'm sorry to say it. If you're in a calorie deficit, it is going to be really, really hard to gain any muscle, to have any gains in the gym. It just is what it is. So use it as a tool if you really want to put on some true lean body mass.
All right, so I asked Chat GPT, why shouldn't women be scared of bulking? Again, another pointed question.
That's a good question.
Some women may be afraid of bulking or gaining weight and muscle mass because they fear that it will make them look masculine or unattractive. However, this fear is unfounded, meaning it's false. And women should not be scared of bulking. In fact, bulking can be beneficial for women in several ways. For example, gaining muscle mass to help improve strength, athletic performance, and overall health. It can also help increase bone density, reducing the risk of osteoporosis. Additionally, gaining a small amount of weight and muscle mass can help you improve your body composition, making you look and feel healthier and more fit. So if you are a woman and considering bulking, you should not be afraid of it with the right approach and guidance, meaning don't take steroids. Bulking can be a safe and effective way for you to improve your health and overall fitness.
And look, we have trained hundreds and thousands of women, and I have been in focus meetings where the woman sitting in front of me is so under eating that it's affected not only her mood, but like hormonally, right? If you're a woman and you get your body fat too low and you want to keep cutting calories, you might lose your menstrual cycle, and that is not something you want to do, especially as a young woman. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're bulking, your hormones are going to be in good balance, right? You're going to have more energy in the gym. It's just something that you have to fix with your mind, because I like my wife Monica deals with this sometimes too. It's like she thinks she's gaining all this fat, but then I have to show her these pictures of all that muscle she's gained, and it's just gonna have to come with time, because I get the whole mental part of the game. I sometimes think about that too.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm gaining a little bit of fat, Matt. You might want to lay off, and I have to realize, like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
So it's a tool. So if you want to use that tool, it's there for you.
Okay, that's it for this Trainer Talk, guys. We're gonna stay right here for part 2.
Let's go.
All right, and before we do that, let's sign off on part 1. Matt, take us out. 2 claps on 2.
2 claps on 2. 1, 2. Bye, guys.